come and see. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You wanna be, wanna be, wanna be. You wanna be in the light. Come and see, come and see, come and see. Come and see, come and see, come and see. You wanna be, wanna be, wanna be. You wanna be the light. But don't you wanna be? Hello.
Hi.
We're glad you're here with us today, and we really hope, genuinely hope, that you've been able to listen to our previous episode on channeling, because that episode is laying a foundation. It's a setup for our series of conversations that we've had with various connectors to various realms of dimensions. Some people refer to these amazing people as channelers, but really they're connecting. And this information, this wisdom is being literally, as we say, channeled, flowing through them. And we get to be the recipients of this incredible gift that they're giving to the world. And so that episode is going to be a great primer for you to be listening to when you're listening to these interviews and these conversations that we're having. And this first beautiful human being that we were so very excited to get to visit with, her name is Courtney Amundson. And Courtney is the author of the book Teachings from God, Greeting Your Soul and Revealing the Divine Within. She's a channeler, she's an author, she's an amazing musician, and a lifelong spiritual seeker. In fact, when Courtney began her journey at the age of 16, which is pretty young, she was regarded as the youngest professional channeler in the world. And in this beginning, the wisdom she received was really for her own evolution and her own understanding. But after a short time, she was guided very strongly to share it with as many people as possible through her book.
The book, Teachings from God, is phenomenal. Everyone needs to have a copy of this book. It is so expansive and infinite in its wisdom, the ability to put things in a way that are easy to understand, and yet the truths included in this book are very densely packed and complex universal truths that we get to explore. And I just fell in love with this book. It's a book that you can pick up over and over and over again. You can read just a page or a line or a paragraph if you just want some inspiration or to feel like you have an entire celestial host of high-dimensional angelic beings as your cheerleaders for the day. It is incredible, and we are so excited to have Courtney on the show today. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the show, Courtney. We are so happy that you are here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? We are so excited. We are just so tremendously excited to get to talk to you.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. No, I'm good. Just came back from a walk. We have a lot of snow on the ground right now, so I took my dog out for a walk, and that was nice.
Aw, beautiful.
Well, we've read your amazing book, Teachings from God, but we would love it if you could share your story with how this book actually came into being.
Well, it's a really beautiful story. It's been almost 6 years now, actually, since this book came into being. And when I started on it, which was March 12th, 2012. I started channeling this book, and I was 16 years old at the time. So it was a really beautiful experience of coming into myself in a more full way. And it all started, it's always interesting when I go into this story because it feels like a lifetime of exploration and many lifetimes of exploration before this pinnacle, I think, in my experience. But I had been practicing meditation for, many years before this happened, and I was very interested in channeled material. My mom introduced me to Abraham Hicks, and I was a Qigong practitioner, and so there was many different, I guess, spiritual awarenesses in my life up until this point. But it was a specific day, March 12th, 2012, when I had this awakening point, and I was meditating on my couch, and I normally did every single day, and I said, I made this prayer. I said, what did I say? I'm going back in time. I said, the highest of light, the highest of love, please come into my body and show me what I need to see. And I felt this angelic presence come into my body, physically come into my body in this floaty feeling that just took over my entire self. And I felt just transcendent, and it almost even felt like I rose above the couch I was sitting under, and I felt this just unconditional love come through me, and this just incredible light, and I just felt so held in this place. And I thought, I know exactly what's happening. This is what happened to Esther Hicks when she started channeling Abraham. And it was funny because I had just been listening to some Abraham Hicks that morning, and so it was all fresh in my memory of what's happening. And so I thought, in the middle of this experience, I thought, I'm going to go to the computer, try not to stop this experience, but just go to the computer and see what happens, and put my hands down on the keys, and this incredible force started coming through my hands in a beautiful way, not in a scary way, but in a, just this light just started shooting out my fingertips and onto the keys. And I surrendered, and I that was my prayer, is just what do I need to hear now? And that's when the words started coming through, the very beginning of Teachings from God. And so the first, I think, 300-400 pages were information just for me to kind of understand my purpose and why I'm here, and the purpose of the human experience. And, I went on some really important, journeying during that time. And then I was guided to create a book, and that's where it became more universal in the material. And then I started to think about publishing. And so now, fast forward to my 22-year-old self. It's been out for 2 years now, and it's just been a really amazing journey. So that's where I am with it.
Well,
Wow.
it's incredible. That's beautiful. I'm kind of blown away. I did not really quite realize that you did, when this came really through you and came pouring out of you, and you're sitting at the keyboard, and you're ending up with 300 to 400 pages. I mean, was this all in one sitting? Did you like take a break and come back and start the process of repeating the series of steps that you did, of just obviously you're a regular meditating individual and that was part of your daily practice, but did it all happen at one time?
It was not all in one sitting for sure, but it was a daily practice for me, and I would sit there for sometimes a couple of hours at a time, sometimes 3 hours at a time, which seems insane, but I went into this timeless place where it felt like 20 minutes. So 100 pages probably happened within, the first couple of months. And by the end of all the material being done, I had about 900 pages, single-spaced. So
wow.
It was an incredible amount of stuff that I had to weed through to get to what we have now, which is about 330 pages, I guess. So it wasn't all in one sitting, but it was definitely what I call a very immersive experience, because I was just in that energy for, pretty constantly for, that beginning part of time of the journey. So yeah, my parents often talk about this, their experience of me during that time. And I kind of I really sort of stayed in my own space a lot of the time. Because there was such incredible things happening, it was almost like I couldn't integrate with the life around me.
I'm sure.
And so I was just, like taking my nature walks and being quiet, painting, meditating for hours and hours, and, people just sort of left me alone because of what was happening. But at night, after my parents would come home after we ate dinner, sometimes I would do these channelings with them there as well. Wow. So they did, they were part of it in a lot of ways in the beginning. My mom was actually a big part of helping me get to that deeper place, because I would become so detached in a way. I would have my own completely different experience while the words were coming out. So she would ask the questions because it helped to get the information out. But I would, in the beginning, it was so dramatic and, like a sci-fi movie. It was like I would see this energy body raise out of my physical body, and then I would go and travel to other places and times, and then I'd come back and, there would sit a complete daze and see all these words, and then we would read it together. So it was always like, it was new to me in a sense. Mm-hmm. When I would read back the words, it was like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. So it's always surprised me, I guess, the depth of what's come through.
Wow. So were you as Courtney when you weren't channeling this information? Were you having to, like, as your personality self, process what was happening to you?
Mm-hmm. I think there was a lot of, it felt like this great polarity of, my teenage self, which, I had friends and I had, different commitments. Like I was in an orchestra and I was in a quartet. And I was, in school. I did online school, but I still had schoolwork to do every day. So it was a very weird experience to be having to concentrate in that sort of mind way, mm-hmm. just very like human-like things. And then going off and experiencing these incredible, larger than life experiences. So I did feel very isolated in that sense that I couldn't talk about these experiences, or I didn't feel like I could, at least with anyone, because I thought it was weird. I thought people would think it was weird, or maybe not believe me. So I sort of just kept it within my family for a really long time. But I do remember, I do remember sharing this, with one of my friends at a music camp, and she was like, "Come on now." Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about this."
Well, I was going to ask you, like, within your friends, is
right.
your spirituality and these practices, clearly you've grown up in a home where this is a norm as far as meditating and, being educated by channeled material. I mean, I don't know how, pretty much everybody knows Abraham Hicks and knows that material.
Right.
We have these, what we would refer to as the pillars, the foundational pillars of channeled information. And that would be like Seth and Jane Roberts and Esther Hicks and Abraham and Lee Carroll and Cryon. And, these people that have been doing it before the mass awakening really took place. And here you are.
Absolutely.
And you're, you've been... how perfect by design that you're in the family that you're in. And yet, we talk about that a lot, as far as for us and where we're at as mothers, as caretakers, as parents, and you're trying to juggle all these things. And you clearly, at least had your family, but having your peer group and your friends, that's a huge thing to share with them.
It is.
And going through that process, that would be a challenge.
Was there sort of a natural weeding process that happened when you fully embraced your path? And I mean, did some people fall out of your friend group and you gained
totally.
new
Totally
people that were more aligned?
It was two different layers to this experience. In the beginning, I was integrating myself into this new way of life that I knew, was my life path now. And so I was processing that. Okay, I'm not going to go to music school. I want to write books. I want to, broaden into my spirituality. So I was realizing that in the middle of, having all of my friends that were on the path of going to music school, pursuing, really difficult careers in what I felt was difficult career. And so I realized I didn't feel on the same wavelength as a lot of them. And I distanced myself, from a lot of people just for that reason. I didn't feel like I could connect on the same level. But I shared this experience with one of my friends, and she was like, "Yeah, this is kind of BS to me. I'm not sure about this." And but I was guided to tell her about it and share with her, and so I let it go. And it's funny because, we've stayed in touch, and I saw her last week, and she came over to my house and she said, "Will you do a channeling for me? I really need it."
Aww.
And 6 years later, and it came full circle.
They had to catch up.
She was like, "Well, I came around," and it was a really beautiful thing because, it was like a planting of a seed 6 years ago. And then she came to me and asked me to do this, and it completely shifted her in an hour. So
that is beautiful.
I think it's a really amazing. And now that I'm older, and I've come into myself in the sense that I validate myself now. I don't need someone else to say that's cool or that's not cool. I know it's cool. And, I've had enough exposure now in the last couple of years that I've seen the impacts on people as well. So, the reaction that I get now, 99% of the time is it's cool what you're doing. Not like questioning me or challenging me. I don't get that as much. And of course I have completely, new friends, but I've also hung on to some of the ones that over the years that I still feel connected to. So it's sort of a mixture, but I just think you have to be authentic, and whoever fits in that box is good, and whoever doesn't, you'll find better ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to say that we are so happy that you shared this with the rest of the world. I'm just over the moon with this material. It's so densely packed, and yet it's so easy to read it. And, there are so many, just like the Seth material and the Cryon material, Abraham Hicks, there's so much universal truth that is interwoven into every chapter of the book. Do you ever go back and read it yourself and glean new insights from the material that you've brought forth?
It's an interesting question. People ask me that a lot, and I normally find myself diving back into it when I'm on various shows. But there was, a lot of time in the beginning where I was reading it all the time. And, truthfully, I feel like it was integrated within me as I was writing it. And it, obviously it came from within me in many senses as well. So it's there for all of us. It's information that's there for all of us. It's not new information. We're just remembering it.
Right.
But I feel that that's what happens when we pick up the book, is we are remembering. And, of course it's always beautiful when I read back, these words, and I always have to stop myself and think, oh my gosh, this really came out of me somehow. Not in an ego way, but just wow, this is the capacity of all of us, if we let it and detach from our own selves. So, it's not a daily practice for me anymore like it used to be, but I feel that the difference is that I'm not just reading the words and thinking that's beautiful. I feel like I'm applying the teachings in through action, through experience, through life, which is, I think, that what we want in the end anyway.
Yeah, I was like, that's what's intended.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's always beautiful to read the words back, but I don't feel the same depth in that I do just having a moment of silence and experiencing some beauty, out in nature or in a person or something where you can just be still and listen and gain something from that moment. So that's just the phase I'm in right now.
Well, yeah. So how do you identify, or do you, maybe I should say that, but how do you identify the type of channeling that you're doing right now? Are you going, you're not a trance channeler. Would you consider yourself more of a conscious channeler, or what, do you even put a label on it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't really have any labels for it, because I think, well, I suppose I'm just anti-labels in every way, but but with the channeling, I think what I experience is I'm not completely detached in the sense that I don't remember anything, and that I have no awareness of anything going on. At times in the beginning, it did feel a little bit like that. Sometimes I would not remember a single thing. But it's evolved a little bit. That was just in the very beginning. But now I think, in the past 3-4 years, the way that I experience it is it's a real depth, but it's more like I feel that angelic feeling, but I'm still there. I'm still listening. It's just, it's kind of like sitting in the back seat and trying to listen to somebody talk from the front seat, you know, in a long van or something, where it's sort of, it's pretty muffled from the back seat. So you're still there, you're still present, you're still listening, but it's very distant. And I would say the channeling is what is most loud to me.
Okay.
If the information that's coming through for a certain person, like if I'm working with somebody, you know, a client, if that information isn't applicable to me in any way, then usually I'll just check out. But oftentimes, I think most often, you know, when I work with people, it's usually for both of us. So it's a really beautiful thing to, like, you know, get paid to help somebody and also help yourself at the same time.
Oh, we understand that. You know, we totally, in our work and our practice and working with our clients, we totally get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, I don't know what that would be called, but
I don't think we have to call it anything. We're with you. You know, I think the paradigm of labeling, and it's you know, labeling helps people. It's like a roadmap, right? It's a way for us to be able to compartmentalize, or to be able to have some kind of identification that we say, okay, we're going to understand that this term means this, and yet this is all shifting. You know, this is all changing, and we are all trying in our own unique way to be changing this paradigm and creating this shift and encouraging that to unfold. And so, you know, not that we're into labeling exactly, but I you know, we know, I think we all three know and understand that for people who are, especially if they're new to it, it helps them have some kind of feel for it. And at the same time, you're just a channel. You are the channel.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, like, you know, it's more the feeling and the change it brings about in you, rather than looking at the personality in front of it and saying, this is what you're doing and you're a channeler and blah, blah, blah. Like, I have become more and more focused, you know, anytime somebody sort of like puts me on a pedestal, I try to bring it down to the most simplest level. Like, we're all channeling all of the time. And these are the ways that you're doing it. These are the ways that you tune in. These are the ways that you practice mindfulness. And, you know, it's super empowering to go at it from that angle, in the way that I'm working with clients these days. Well, not me, but the way that, you know, the channeling happens working with people these days is so incredible. Like, people leave like crying because they shifted themselves. You know, it's like not coming from me or some outside force, but from within them. And so many people that, you know, they say to me, this that felt like me, that felt like my like divine voice. And like, yeah, this is what this is about. This is what I'm saying, you know, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And people don't realize it can happen in like an hour. If we just open up and ask.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, people have to go through that experience of having that quantum leap. That would be a quantum leap that you have to kind of like transcend your old belief system that that's an impossibility, that you couldn't have that within like this short amount of time. And yet,
and that's a journey for each individual person to get to that place, right?
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, how has this transition been going into having been channeling, basically doing the writing, to have you always done the voice channeling, or is that something that has just come about in your process since you began channeling?
Good question. Yeah. In the beginning, it was just the typing. That's all I did was just the typing. And that was deep for me because, you know, I would sort of begin this typing. I would close my eyes and I'd have the screen basically turned off. So it was just typing and going into my meditation. And the moment that I would do that, my hands would keep typing on their own. And somehow I could just go off and experience and have no recollection, which is still crazy to me.
I bet.
That's possible. But my fingers just gained like this muscle memory where they knew where all the keys were and would just type. And that just shows you, first of all, that there's, many different areas within your, physicality that can function without your conscious mind being active, So that's what I did in the beginning for first maybe a year, I want to say. And then, also just writing with my hand, like on the paper. But then I don't tell this story that often, so this will be exciting. I went to this channeling group in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, where I live, and my mom found this group on Meetup, and she was like, there's this channeling group. We should go and see what it's all about. And this is the first time that I ever went to anything. So, like channeling wise. So I was like really excited and, nervous about it. And how are they going to compare to me? But basically we go, and it's just a group of people sitting in a circle, and everybody got to ask a question and get a channeled reading from these different women on this panel. And we start doing this meditation, and everybody got a notepad, and I just ended up randomly like channeling like 7 pages within that 2 hours or something. And so and that information blew me away. And so anyway, the people there asked me to share it at the end, and that was the first time that I shared anything publicly with, anything outside of the family, really.
Wow.
And everybody's mouths were just dropped open. They were like, whoa, that was crazy. And so I kept going. I kept going week after week for a couple of years. And within, 6 months or something, they asked me to be on the panel. So I was like 17, and I started doing these, public meetings as well, and channeling for the public. And so then at that point I had to start using my voice, and that was the introduction of that. And, I was a little self-conscious about that, but I tried it, and it was even more powerful. So, the way that the voice comes through now, it's a whole new level of feeling, because, there's just, intonation, the way that we speak, that says a lot. And, that angelic voice that you read in the book, to hear it through somebody's voice is even cooler, I think. So,
well, sure. It's the sound, it's the frequency, it's the vibration. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I do now, 100% of the time. And, it's good. And I think, what always strikes people is, how they can feel that shift within them, without doing anything, without even asking a question. The moment that they start talking to somebody, in a reading privately, it's like you feel this wave of energy come over you, and it's just, it's cool. I don't get it, but I like it.
Well, I was going to say, I think for the person that's in the room with you, you feel the authenticity, you feel the integrity of that. And it's something that just speaks through your heart space. You know, we're feeling that and we're not processing that mentally. We know the truth of it. And I think that's, you know, I can speak for myself. I mean, I know that's what I feel like whenever if I'm having a session with somebody, that I'm the participant and I'm not the one that's the channeler, that you just know it, you know, and you feel that complete, beautiful, unconditional love.
But
Right.
I will say that I feel that just from reading the words as well. I think that the vastness of that love and unity comes through in the written word. You know, the energy of that comes through equally in the book.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing that I mean, you just feel like you're floating. It's so beautiful and uplifting. And you do, just like you put it so well, you feel like you're just held in love and being supported. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah, there's definitely moments where I sometimes, you know, get nostalgic about those, you know, those beginning moments, because I was still so in awe of it that I just couldn't get enough of it. And, you know, now sometimes I'll reread the words and it's, you know, all these beautiful words, and I'm like, yeah. I've heard this. You know, and you know, sometimes I just wish I could go back and re-experience that sort of, you know, just feeling that, you know, for the first time sort of thing. But like I said, you know, I experience it in different ways now, or through music too, you know, as a musician, you know, I experience it, I think, fully in that way, but it's always working itself around me in different areas of my life.
Do you get any visual imagery while you're channeling?
Not visually in the sense that I actually see something in my vision, but the weird thing that I always have a hard time explaining this to people, but whenever I receive images, it's kind of like in the form thought, or thought form. Like I have an idea of what something, you know, the information that I'm getting. And sometimes it comes in metaphors, sometimes it comes in, you know, like I said, intuitive thought, but never like physical images. That's not really part of what I've experienced. I have experienced, you know, visions before in, you know, deep meditations, but normally when I work with people, what comes through is just, you know, kind of automatic. But sometimes I'll feel a certain color, a certain emotion, maybe in part of a body, and then they'll take somebody through that process and tune into that and see what that feels like and what's underneath that. And then a story will be there. Okay, let's go into that. What does that feel like? What does that mean to you? And sometimes people will hold images within that. And it's always interesting for me to feel, you know, in a reading like, oh, there's a feeling of this in this part of the body, and then ask somebody to go there and then they say the same thing. You know, that's always interesting for me, but it's, you know, it's not really like a dramatic experience in any way. I tell people, you know, channeling is not, it's usually not this big dramatic thing. It's being able to be sensitive enough to tune into the subtlety, and then the subtlety of that experience, you know, you learn for it to be loud enough so that you can hear it and understand it. But it's not a grandiose thing usually.
I know from in our practice, we work on clients together. So there's the two of us, and we've known each other for decades, working on a client together, doing Reiki and sound healing, and also channeling information. And it's quite interesting when we deconstruct that, because we get to experience each other's experiences during the session. And one of the things that I think is endlessly interesting is how the channeled information that comes to us for the client comes in a way that each one of us individually can understand. Like you were talking about, like in metaphors or a color. And it's like, what does that mean to me, so that I can communicate that in a way. And so even though the theme or the concepts are the same, the information comes to each of us individually in different ways. And it's just such a testament to how we all have these abilities that, we can't compare how information comes to us with how it comes to anybody else, because we're all so individual and unique in how we're going to be receiving that information. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's what's really beautiful about the experience, is that it's always it's always personalized to whoever you're working with. So it's never like the same process for anybody, for any two people. And the way that it comes through is always, it just touches upon that deepest part of somebody. And,
Right.
You can't ever, I don't usually know a single thing about the people that I work with.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes most
here.
of them are international, so most of them are, even out of the country. Mm-hmm. And, some people, you can hardly even communicate with, but it's like, okay, but let's just, go into the meditation, and people experience it through their heart. Mm-hmm. And it's, the language of the heart it transcends any physical language barriers.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So I agree. It's a mystery, and also, it's kind of good that it's a mystery, because it allows us to just get out of the head and experience it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit about your understanding of what dimension of reality the beings that you channel come from?
Mm-hmm. In the book, there is some talk about this, about dimensional realities, because this was something that I was very interested about. And, it's like with anything, you get hooked on something, you get excited about something, you want to know everything about it. And that's how I was in the very beginning, oh my gosh, where's this coming from? And who are these beings, and how many are there? And then they said they're a collective, and then I'm like, what collective? And and I was just like, super into all of it, and researching and just kind of going nuts about it. And then, I started to relax about it over time, because I realized it was really about understanding ourselves, not that energy. Because here's what I got in response to that. The analogy of the pot of soup, and you might have come across this in the book, or maybe not yet, but there's this analogy about the state of oneness being like a big pot of soup, and there's many different flavors within this pot of soup. that we can taste individually when we focus upon it. You can taste the basil, you can taste the thyme, you can taste the potatoes or whatever. But you won't go in and count the molecules of water.
Right.
It's a collective at that point. It's one liquid at that point. And so they talk about the energy of oneness being that same way that, there's different personality flavors within what we call spirit, or what we call, oneness. Mm-hmm. So what I'm tuning into is a flavor of that. And this flavor is defined not only by myself and my higher self, which is connected to all that is, but also the, that flavor of that specific energy, which they have said to me is the highest vibration that we can tune into as a humankind. So that's as much as I care about, to be honest with you. As long as it's coming from the highest place of light that I can possibly tune into, I'm happy. And you can feel that in the way that it comes through as well. And I'm not saying that other people aren't doing the same. I think many people are doing the same. So it's not like my version is higher than your version. No, I don't do that. But for sure, it's the intention of connecting with the highest of light that I think always, I never had any weird experiences with channeling, in other words.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I think what we were intrigued by, what really kind of caught our eye, was that, and this is a quote, I think I'm going to just like a little snippet here, mm-hmm. that you wrote, that from the light tribe of Gaia, located in the fifth dimension atmosphere. I know, you're like, is this something people get hung up on? Not that I'm hung up on it, but I'm that kind of just opened up a whole new realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Are these future versions of ourselves, or is this a complete, there's so many different ways of interpreting that. We understand that, but we thought that was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. That came through a couple of times. So it's interesting because, throughout the evolution of writing this book, there were a couple different flavors that came through, the light tribe of Gaia being one of them. So, I did get a little bit hung up on that. Like, okay, how did these all come together, But in the end, when you look at the book as a whole, it all sounds the same.
Right.
Regardless of the word, it all feels and sounds the same. Mm-hmm. Light tribe of Gaia, I think, that... do I know that much about that? And I don't know, but to me, it's like that force. I have heard of the light tribe of Gaia, but if you guys have listened to Solara Anra, she's another channel.
That's so funny. She's going to be on our show. She's one of our beloved mentors.
She's one of our teachers.
She's one of our teachers. We've known her for a long time.
We're so connected with her.
I've communicated with her recently as well, and got her on this documentary that I'm going to be on.
Awesome.
So she's going to be on that as well.
Awesome. Oh, wow.
But, she, I heard that term from her originally, but I think that deals more with, the earth energy specifically. But it's all loving, it's all loving. It's all guardians of the light. So, and again, with working with people individually as well, it's different too, because then it's focused more on that person's soul. So I don't even use the word channeling that much anymore these days. I usually tell people if I'm working with people one-on-one, I call them soul readings, because I feel like that's what the focus is on the personal level. But But, the dimensional realities don't concern me that much anymore. I think what I've learned is they're not actual planes of existences. They're not physical places, in other words. They're energetic frequencies.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's also not levels either. That's it's not that these things don't exist. They very much do. It's just the way that we interpret them,
right,
which gets complicated. So once people start talking about dimensional realities and all this stuff, people think levels, they think different places, they think...
Well, they impose a hierarchy on it, right? They think that if something is up here, then this is down here, and it creates more separation, more division.
Right. Whereas, like, in the channeling state, you are in a different dimensional reality, but it's within you,
right.
So
right.
it's that's where it gets complicated. But, what dimensional reality is it coming from specifically? I've been told different things, but I don't know what I think about it, to be honest with you. I'm sort of like, I know how it feels. I know where it's coming from, in the highest of place. So, but it is interesting. I will say that it is always interesting.
Well, you've done a beautiful job explaining it. I don't, we're definitely not seeking some sort of definitive answer. I think that kind of just caught because of Solara, because we know that that's a very specific, that kind of triggered a connection for us, coming across.
Well, and also, I will say, and I've read a lot of channeled information, and I will say that one thing that I really appreciated about the book and about the wisdom that is shared in the book is that it feels, how when you read some channeled information, it feels so distant and so almost unrelatable to the human experience, and the wisdom that's coming from or coming through you just feels very relatable to the human experience. It feels very tapped into the human experience and the challenges and the struggles and what it's like to feel separate and alone and like you're unable to see the bigger picture. And I guess it just stuck out with me whenever I read that, the light tribe of Gaia, like how connected they are to the human experience.
Yeah, for sure. And in my second book, which I completed, it's yet to be edited, but it's even more focused on the human experience. And
we need all the help we can get, so I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely was, struggling a lot of the time with that second book too. So it's got more of my desires in it as well. Less just sort of automatic transmission, but more, what I wanted to hear about, as well as I also opened it up to the public. So I said, people send in your questions, and I will record a channeling, put it up on YouTube, and then add it into the book. So there's
awesome.
Quite a lot of people's personal questions
that's cool.
integrated in it as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that impacts people.
Would you say that you have a soul agreement to be this channel, for the information you're bringing forth?
Totally. Yeah, that was clear to me from the beginning. And of course, it was like, okay, here's what you got to do. There's always free will, but once you say yes, then
there's no going back, really. You know,
yeah, buckle in.
What's been seen cannot be unseen.
Yeah, totally. So, I said, yeah, I'm down. And once I said yes, I didn't really realize all that came with that, but
the commitment that you were making.
Yeah.
I know, because there are times I know for us and with people that we love that are also in this field, it's like we all have our dark nights of the soul, if you will, that we want to kind of like, I don't even want to do that today, and you're not going to get away from your, that connection and that commitment. And we understand that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It is. I mean, this is all for our expansion, right? We're all doing what we're doing.
One thing that we definitely speak to clients about a lot is everyone loves the expansion part of it, but I think that the dark night of the soul is not as enjoyed as the rest of it, but it's so important.
It's the retraction where you get to have the integration.
It's like, what do I really believe? Like, how have I integrated this into my human experience?
Oh, that's just it. How am I putting it into my real life? It's not good enough to just go to meditation groups. It's not good enough to just go to yoga class. And that's what I think, so funny.
It is.
People are like, well, you must be living such an enlightened life now, and it's all great. And I'm like, no, I feel, more human than ever. It was very, it was completely easy peasy in the beginning. I will be honest about that. I felt like there was nothing wrong with life, anything that was happening in the news. Completely detached. I was just like, I was just in this completely different realm. And then I was being given more lessons, and that's when,
Oh yeah,
that's where it got interesting. I'll say it.
Oh yeah.
And stuff happened and really threw me for a loop, and so now I really just have to go day by day, and some days I don't. Some days I just stay in my house, and I just sort of keep to myself, and I try to be gentle with myself on those days, and then other days I want to go on adventure and spend time outside, and I just try to go with the flow. But it definitely is like a harsh environment some days in the world. It's hard to deal.
Yeah, we can be tried for sure. Of traversing the challenges, and it's
where you're just like, am I being punked like by my higher self,
right?
Or what?
I know, right?
Like, because this isn't funny.
Right.
Yeah. Give me a break.
Literally, give me a break. Uncle, I can't take it anymore. But then just when you think and you actually think to yourself, like, I cannot stand this for one more second, it's like something just really pushes through, it breaks through, and you're on the other side of it,
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of a cool process.
Oh, of course. Oh, there's always layers.
Yeah.
We don't even, can comprehend the infinite layers that we are all individually and collectively going through,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Can you speak to the importance of having a regular meditation practice?
I wish I could. I don't really have a regular meditation practice now in the sense of sitting down and meditating. I'll just be honest about it. But one thing is, I don't think meditation is just that either.
Right.
I think meditation is mindfulness. That's how I talk about it. And that part, I think I'm doing much better at. And the way that I do that is just, it sounds self-explanatory, but it really is a really deep practice, which I'm sure both of you understand. But being able to be conscious of each moment and the thoughts that are coming in as they're coming in, noticing that, there's an observer and there's an experiencer.
Right.
Being able to separate those two, I think, is the key to freedom, in ultimately what we're looking for in meditation. Because meditation, it's not about quieting the mind. It's supposed to be about observing the mind. We're not supposed to get rid of our mind.
Right.
We have it for a reason.
Exactly.
And it's the human experience. So when people say like, oh, meditation isn't for everybody, I can't clear my mind, I'm like, well, yeah, you along with everybody else.
Right.
That's not the point or what we're looking for. So, when I do meditate, in the sense of just, actually sitting down and, putting music on or whatever, I just observe, and you can go deeper into meditation, when you have a spiritual master or a practice of calling upon a higher source to help you, which is, ultimately what I think, how you deepen your connection with your divine. It's about actually asking your divine, so what's the purpose of a regular practice? It's everything, but meditation can happen in many different ways for each individual. And especially if you have a monkey mind, there's different things that you can do to help you to get to that point of being able to just observe. And that's the practice of mindfulness that I have found to be important, because I struggle with anxiety a lot, and that's something that I talk about openly, because it's like, we talk about our gifts, but we don't always talk about the other side of gifts, which is, if you have a sensitivity like I do, which makes me really great at channeling, but also sometimes really open to everything else. So I started learning this practice of mindfulness, and in moments where I would get overwhelmed or, anxious, I would stop and I would look at the first thing that I saw, which right now is a tree, and I would observe the tree. I would observe the color and the texture of the tree, and observe, and then my mind goes to the next thing, and then I see, oh, and then there's snow right there. Wow, that's really beautiful. Look at how the shadow is shining over the pavement, and then you have a thought, oh, I need to get bananas at the store. And then, so you're noticing in each moment, instead of controlling what you want your mind to do, which is often how people go about meditation. You're just observing. There's no wrong. You're not supposed to stop your thoughts, because you can't. So just observing. And I think that's the key to, meditation as well, or just any practice, however you experience meditation. Sometimes it happens for me when I'm playing music or when I'm taking a walk. I think meditation for me has taken more on the form of mindfulness, but it's definitely key to be conscious. So whatever you're doing.
Well, you're articulating something that we believe to be true, that that we're all in agreement here.
Yeah.
It's so awesome and refreshing to hear that reflected back right now in this moment, because you know, just from our own experience of interacting and working with our clients, it's like you kind of have to. People do have preconceived ideas about what that means to have a meditation practice, you know.
And we're big proponents of active meditation
Right.
as well.
Of just the
you know.
mindfulness, right.
Whether it's, engaging, being fully engaged in some sort of an activity that is, excites you, and yet you can get, into that real daydreamy state where so much information can come through to you, from your higher self, whether it's painting or, I'm sure the same can be said when you're playing music.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's being in that now moment and being very aware of that present moment.
For sure. Yeah. I think I experience it most now when I'm doing art or music, because I just go into that zone really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think the more you spend time in that space, the more it becomes automatic, and the more you recognize it, so that it's not this big deal when there's silence. It feels more like you're building new grooves in the mind each time you do it. So, and that's the practice of kirtan for me as well, which is something that I have started doing this year, and I'm leading kirtan now, and it's just an incredible practice that, again, is another form of meditation for me. So,
would you mind, just for our listeners that may not be familiar with kirtan, would you just speak to that?
Yeah. So kirtan is a call and response style of sacred music. Comes from the yoga field. It's called Bhakti Yoga, and which basically is yoga of devotion. So the songs that we sing are in Sanskrit, which is an ancient language that comes from India, and so these chants are very ancient and have been chanted for many, many years, and many hundreds of years, thousands of years, I'm sure.
Yes.
And so, well, the songs are within 500 years, but the chants themselves, far longer, I'm sure. But they carry a power, just the ancients, that energy carrying through that many years, that builds power, And so, what's amazing is when you have a group of people come together and all chant those words together, names of God, there's something that happens that's magical. And the way that kirtan works, so there's a kirtan leader, which in this case would be me. So I sit behind the harmonium and I play the harmonium. And I sing the first line, and then the audience sings the line after. So it's call and response. So, I'll sing one line, and then people sing it back, and then I sing the next line, and then people sing it back. And these chants can last for, many minutes, sometimes up to 30 minutes if you want, for each song. Usually I do about 15 minutes about. And so... And then we have Indian instruments as well as like the harmonium is an Indian instrument, but then we have other instruments like guitar and drums, and I have some backup singers, and so it's really, really fun. And we had one on January 27th, so just at the end of January I held.
Is that
one.
your birthday?
It was my birthday was 3 days before. So yeah.
Your birthday's on the 24th.
Yeah. Yeah.
A fellow Aquarian. I'm on the 25th. We're a day apart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So
what a beautiful birthday gift for yourself. I mean, just that's amazing.
it was really awesome. And we had about 50 people come to my house, and we made a feast, and everybody was dancing and singing, and
Oh my gosh.
it was a party. And I had I don't know if you guys know Ragini. She's a well-known kirtan artist.
Yes.
She flew in to celebrate with me.
Now, how did you two get connected?
Do you know,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Did you know her?
Yeah, we're good friends now. I reached out to her a couple of years ago. She actually came on my Spotify playlist randomly while I was writing this book. And I came out of my meditation. I was like, who the heck is this? This is an incredible voice. I felt like I knew her before. And I just had this sense. I just knew her. And so I reached out to her and realized she was in Wisconsin. And then we met.
Right next door.
Yeah. So we met, and now we're really good friends. And
wow.
She's helping me with my album. And
oh my gosh.
She's so anyway, she flew and stayed with me for that weekend. And so we made a lot of good music. And
I can just see the glow of your above your house, that vibrational frequency of that.
It was crazy.
I mean, that would be so, just like your heart had to have felt like it was about to explode.
It did. It really did. And the people too, were incredible. And, people brought their own percussion and so it was just, the house was just buzzing. I could imagine our neighbors could hear, because woo, yeah, it was powerful. But for sure, that's like just as ecstatic as a really blissful, peaceful, silent meditation. I think we're supposed to get in our bodies too.
Oh, absolutely.
And kirtan does that for me.
Now,
so
are you
people.
making a kirtan album?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm making an album. So that's the next thing. It's going to be a full mantra album. I'm not sure it's going to be kirtan in the sense that it's call and response. It's going to be a duet album. So I'm working with someone else, and he's playing guitar and singing with me. So it's a really beautiful, just acoustic album, some low-key tracks, and also some good like car jams that people can sing along to in the car. So yeah,
I think it's so beautiful that you're just allowing yourself to get whisked away into whatever excites you. And I think it's it's so important to just follow those excitements, and that's being your authentic self, in the truest sense.
Do you receive some other higher wisdom from your guides about sound as a healing tool?
Oh, yeah. Sound is, I think, the most powerful tool that we have.
We would agree.
Agreed.
Even within my Qigong practice and learning from my teacher, who is Master Chuni Lin. He founded Spring Force Qigong, and he's been my teacher since I was 9 years old when I first met him. And he's just the most powerful, profound person I've ever met. And that's how I learned meditation in the first place. I feel like he was the foundation for all of the growth that I think happened. Not that it didn't come from me, but I think it definitely, that was the spark. But I learned about chanting from him in the first place, because we used to chant, the 6-word chant.
Right.
So I grew up chanting that and listening to that and feeling the power of that. It's one of those ones that's just like home to me. I always go back to it. And then it sort of just, that's all I really listened to, until I heard of Ragini, when I was 16. So there was, a period of time where I didn't really listen to anything else. Well, I suppose I listened to like David Permal, but
we love her.
The power of mantras as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, David Permal is amazing. I got an email from her the other day.
Oh my gosh, how exciting!
Yeah, it was crazy. But the power of sound, though, I think is the most powerful tool that we have. And have I received specific guidance about it? I think so. I can't remember specifically at this moment, but I know that it's one of those ways to activate our physical bodies, and our physical bodies have so many of, all the tools that we're looking for reside within our physical beings. So when we talk about the Akashic records, all of that stuff, that cosmic library, storehouse of information that's right within us. So sound is one of those ways that we can access that. So, I have crystal bowls as well. So I play those. But I'm such a feeler. I'm not really into the, I got to know everything about it. I'm sort of just on board with how does this feel. And then, that's sort of how I do everything. So, there's so many people though that are experts about sound that,
but I mean, even if you think you know everything that there is to know, I mean, you can revisit that next year or the next year or whatever and realize that you knew very little, It's always something that, I mean, I get where you're coming from of why do we need to know?
Well, and we talk about that a lot.
We experience it.
Right. We don't need to quantify it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, but
well, we utilize a lot of specific hertz frequency tuning forks in our practice, and we don't know every single detail about those particular frequencies, but we know from, like you're just talking about, how does that feel and what is the response that we're getting and being intuitively, because we're in that moment.
Trusting that guidance.
Right.
I don't know why I'm picking up this fork, but I don't have
need
to
use
know
it right now.
I know that I trust that it's perfect.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, there's so many mysteries.
Well, I think Cryon would say that maybe we're just not going to understand everything
it's quantum.
because we're human.
Yeah.
It's quantum and we're human beings.
Right. That's exactly where I'm at with so many of these things is we're always going to have a human filter. We really can't get all of it. Even within this book, there's so much that we're not going to touch upon because it's layered. And the way that I see it, I really do feel like it's layered in the sense that even as we're reading it, there's things that are how do I say this? It's beyond the words. There's energetic codes or energetic information that we receive on a different level. And this is something that I don't share as much. I know it's in the book and it says that, but I guess just because I want people to not take it the wrong way, the way they say it, but it's like it's going to take us many years to understand some of it, and for me too. I'm like, okay, well, I'll continue to learn, but but it's the type of book that I've been told it's, it grows as we grow. And the more that we grow, the more is unveiled to us. So I get that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're lithotherapists. We use stones for healing, and we always are curious when we get to talk to people. What are your favorite stones and crystals, minerals, and that are like that you utilize or that's a part of your life?
I've got such a collection. Yeah, I guess I like quartz a lot. But I've got 2 quartz singing bowls that I adore. And
what tones
I
or
guess,
what key do you have of those? Do you know?
I think they're G and D.
Okay.
But what I've learned about these bowls is that they actually change pitch. They change on their own, and they also change within different environments that they're in as well. So they don't stay the same.
Wow.
They're reading the field.
Yeah, true. But I don't know so much the properties of stones and rocks, but and crystals and all the gems that I have. But I always go by feeling, and then once I get to know them a little bit, then I'll look them up and see what their properties are, which is always interesting because it always matches with what I needed.
Right.
But I do have this one favorite quartz crystal that I have a funny story about. I was in this crystal shop, bead shop actually. I didn't even know there was crystals there at the time, and I was really pulled to go down to this lower level of the store, and my whole body just got super hot, and I was like, oh man, there's something down here. and I know sounds crazy, but these are my kind of stories that I have. And,
we know that feeling.
I know you do. Yeah. So I'm like, there's something happening, something brewing. So I'm like totally like pulled, over to this one counter, and it's like in the movies where it's like shining light, right on the one. It's like, like
the choir of angels are singing.
Yeah,
there's a beam of light.
Exactly like that in my head at least. And I'm like, oh. So I asked this lady, like, can you take it out? And my whole body's just like, spazzing out, like, you really want this crystal. And I just held it, and I just felt like supercharged. And she said, oh, this crystal was formed in Madagascar, and it formed around a body of water, and so it's got like a pocket of water in it that's been in for like hundreds of years. Yeah. So I walked home with it, of course. But I keep crystals with me, pretty much wherever I go. So I believe in the power of them.
Well, at the end of the day, with all things, the most important thing is how do you feel? How does it make you feel? How do you feel connected to it? We definitely, that's what we focus on with our clients. We will have them go. We have a room here at our cottage where we have a practice that we call the Stone Library. And we have our clients go in there. We know based on their session or what we've been dealing with, what we would be recommending. But the most important thing, the most valid thing, is for them to go by and to look around and choose what they're guided to, what they feel drawn to. And always, it's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
And
which is such a beautiful validation for them to be able to see for themselves. You do have the ability to use your intuition. You know,
Totally.
you know exactly what you need.
And your body knows too.
Yeah, it gets hot and you get all excited, or you just feel really drawn and connected. Actions we can have, but at the end of the day, it's what we're listening to ourselves, and we're not questioning that. And it's sure like that's just the place where I would hope to see the rest of the collective and humanity to get to that place. And and not be, there's so much, everybody walks around with so much self-doubt and not trusting what they're receiving themselves as valid. And I think the three of us today are definitely have brought that point home of the importance of that your experience is valid and to trust it.
Right. Yeah. And you can do it on your own too. I mean, that's what I think has been the forefront of the clients that I work with, is allowing them to come up with their own answers just through a little bit of questioning, simple things. And people really do know what's going on if they kind of shed some of those layers. They are aware of what they need and what they want, and so it's always cool to see that happen.
Absolutely. Well, Courtney, we are truly just so deeply grateful to get this opportunity to have a conversation with you today and to get to learn more about just who you are and who you are in this moment and your experience to this point. And, we know you're going to be having another book that's going to be eventually coming out. You've got this album you're working on. So where can people go? And we'll be including, of course, all this information in our show notes and on our website. But what is your YouTube channel for people to go, and what's the best point of place where people can get connected with you?
Yeah, perfect. Well, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Courtney Amundson.
Okay.
AMUNDSON. Or you can visit my website, which is teachingsfromgod.com. So you can find me on either of those sites, and I'm also on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So you can find me on all of those places on my website as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I know that I'm looking forward to this new album. I'm looking forward to the new book. I'm just excited to just see everything that you're creating and co-creating with all these other beautiful souls.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for taking time to just speak with us and to explore a lot of these things with us. It was amazing. You're amazing.
My pleasure to be on, and I enjoyed our conversation, and more to come, I'm sure.
Oh,
hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be hearing from us.
Okay.
Oh, we'll be hearing you because we'll be listening to your album while we're sitting in our office.
Exactly. Well, yesterday this is the beautiful thing about social media, and I'm just going to say this real quick. Yesterday, we got to see you go buy a ukulele. We got to see you go to Jamba Juice.
And then today you've mastered Billy Joel.
And you mastered the Billy Joel.
We're like, what
on the
can't
ukulele.
you do?
Exactly. You can sing, you can channel, you can write a book, you can paint.
You can learn Billy Joel in one night on the ukulele.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it probably was like an hour.
She probably
it was like half an hour.
Half an hour. Have you ever played the ukulele before?
Is this your first time to play the ukulele?
Yeah, this is how it works. I don't even know anymore what life is, but
well, I'm in awe.
Have you always been like that, just with music, being able to just pick something up and play it?
Sorta, yeah. I just always experiment.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
we both love it.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of that.
I posted a new one, so you can go and check that out.
Oh, good.
Okay, good
We'll do
deal.
that.
Awesome. And just, we love you. We have so much love for you.
Thank you
and
for
we
what
hope
you're
you have
doing for the collective of humanity. Just your vibrational frequency being on this planet. I can feel it.
I love both of you guys too, and thanks for having me on your show.
You can check out all things that Courtney is doing on her website, which is www.teachingsfromgod.com. And there you can keep up with the new music that she's going to be dropping really soon. You can get a copy of her book through her website, in addition to getting that on Amazon as well. And just staying up with all of the amazing magical things that this is a prolific creator, human being, and we hope that you will keep up with her journey with as much enthusiasm as we are.
Be the Light podcast is produced by Teal Hobson Lowther. Our amazing theme music was lovingly created by Frequency Jones. Visit our website, BeTheLightRocks.com,